here.
Okay. I make a motion to call the meeting to order. Is there a second?
Lampier, second.
Roll call, trustee Stetser,
Aye.
trustee Lightgift,
Aye.
trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
trustee Keating,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Or aye.
motion passes.
Okay, this evening we have our budget workshop. And I know Dorothea, thanks for putting all of this together, and thank you, Brooklyn, for sending us the packets. Everybody received their material. And I thought we would maybe kick it off. Maybe Dorothea, you could help us kick this off just in terms of giving us a bit of a kind of an overview and a narrative of where we're starting out here.
Before she does that, can I just start by saying thank you for delivering this in Excel? That is a huge win and it is appreciated.
I was hoping you'd be happy with that, Dan.
Just did a cartwheel. Thank you.
All
No
right.
problem. All right, really wanted to touch base. The village accountant, Michael DeBatz, was in today. He's been in a couple times in the last 2 months to go over things and help Mary with closing out the books through December. There's a couple entries he wanted to double check with the December, but he will be assisting us with January and February with closing it out. And he will be doing a proposal for the village for a statement for agreed upon procedures report. We'll be bringing that to the board, the quote for those services next meeting. And if the board would like, I'd be happy to invite him to the meeting so he can explain exactly what it's meaning and what it's about to help the board understand if that's something the board would like.
I think that would be helpful. My understanding
Yes.
is that it's to help facilitate, the transition just with the books
Correct.
and kind of where we are, sort of that snapshot of where we are and now, as we go forward, if I'm correct with that.
Yeah, this is pretty standard. He says it's not surprising. He would expect us to do this, given we're transitioning from someone was in the position for a long time to someone new, to make sure what should be done, what needs to be done, any change of procedures, just overall, just making sure we're starting out on the right step.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Me and Mr. DeBatz, and I've had discussions along with the department heads discussing conversations related to how the categories work and how we're relating funds between sewer and general and the best practices for doing that. And I am looking for the board to make some changes in the way we subdivide monies into both funds. It's in the best interest of the village. We're looking at doing best practices related to the sewer fund, making sure it's carrying its burden, and we're not offsetting it on general, where general is carrying most of the load for sewer. And I think we've been slowly moving that way in the last couple budgets, and I think we can do it in a clearer way on both budget lines.
So help me out here. So essentially, we're looking at sewer sort of as its own profit center, or,
Yep.
the fact that we would collect sewer revenues, but there's also expenses associated with that
Sure.
that should only be allocated flowing through the sewer fund and not coming from general.
Correct. Look at it this way, the sewer office should be able to stand on its own 2 feet and shouldn't rely on general services. So if we were to have a separate sewer office, it would have to pay for electricity, internet, all the things that function in office. And in the past, our allocation of doing that, and whether we've done it through an interfund transfer or another mechanism, I'm not sure quite how we are doing it, but there's a clearer way to do that and break it out, actually, where we're coding those invoices as they come in
Oh, okay.
to do that.
Okay.
As well. Yes, Lily.
Thank you. So what you're saying is that there's a percentage of the office work that could be billed to the sewer fund.
Absolutely. Everything sewer, if you think of the sewer having its own separate little
Right.
building, it would pay for RG&E, it would pay for internet. So
Okay,
it's fair enough for sewer to pay a portion of that bill.
right. So you'll determine what that percentage would be, whether it's 20% of the work or 30%.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And I think an
Okay.
accurate reflection would be looking at like our salaries. And I'm going to
Sure.
touch on that really quick because one thing, if you were looking through the budget, you were going to see that I'm going to pick on the village board just because you're right in front of me and it's easy. Your salaries have been 100% allocated to general. That means you've done no work for sewer, which is totally wrong. You pay sewer bills, bills, you've looked at, sewer breaks and other things. There's work you do related to sewer. So a proper allocation of your labor should be appropriated to sewer. So what I did in this budget, and you'll see, it looks like I took away 20% of your salary or 25%. I really didn't. I'm going to offset it in sewer. So that type of breakdown is something Michael said, if the board, we all can agree upon, we can mimic that for utilities and other things. Now, I haven't done that throughout the budget yet because I need that determination from the board if you're agreeing with my proposal into doing it that way. So it's very clear for someone looking at the budget, if they look at sewer and it says utility, RG&E, that's 25% of what's coming out of the general fund. Okay. Does that make sense so far? Yes,
Yeah.
Dan.
Oh, Dan,
It,
yeah.
it does. Before we get into specifics too much, walk me through amended and what's average and what's inflation. So column F and column G.
Thanks. I was
Oh.
going to ask that too. Thanks, Dan.
Amended is usually your budget after any changes have been
Right. So
made.
that's 21, 22. That's all done.
Right, we haven't made any changes to our current budget
Yeah.
except for the budget approvals I just got, and I haven't made those changes to the budget. So that column for 21, 22 should be reflective of the adopted.
Yep.
It didn't change. I used, for inflation, I did 6.5 because it seems to be the inflation rates between 3 and 6.5 and could be even higher on depending on some of those items. So I went with 6.5. In some case scenarios on the Excel, I didn't take the average. I didn't take the average of the 3 years. I went with my gut or an estimate.
Okay.
just-
So when you've got a column called 2022, 2023 average, that's the 3-year average.
Right, that's the
of
3
prior
average of
3
it.
years. Okay.
Yeah,
And when you've got 2022, 2023 with inflation, that's a 6% bump on the prior year or a 6% bump on the 3-year average?
I think it's on the prior year I did it.
Okay, all
You
right.
have to check my Excel formula. Because I
Okay,
went
and-
from my Excel sheet and I've been trying to keep it up to date with, because I moved everything to the system.
okay,
So it should be pretty reflective, but
Okay,
you can play
and-
with it any way you want. The
okay.
data
So
is there.
when I'm looking at row, can I just share my screen real? Once I understand this, then the whole thing I understand.
Okay,
So I'm sorry to jump in here. Can
I
you
was-
allow me?
I was
to
gonna
share
do
my
the same
screen?
thing.
For me too. This is good. Thank you.
Can you allow me to share my screen real quick?
I'm doing that right now. You should be able to.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Here you go. So that makes sense to me. My question then is here's your average, and that is higher than the 6% bump with inflation. So did you just pull that 20% out of this column, not this column?
Correct.
Okay,
This is what my projection for the budget, and it could be
Oh.
reflected to other things.
okay, so this is the column G with inflation has been adjusted some by you.
Yes,
Okay, so it's not unusual that it would have a different number than
no, it is
the
not.
3-year average.
That's where I'm saying I either took estimates or other information affected that number, so I just
Okay.
changed it. And
Okay.
where you'll see where I say like estimate received, that's why it's not reflective of the average.
Okay,
Does that
Uh,
make sense?
If I could just jump in for a second too. So the average is actually an average in most cases of columns C and D. It doesn't include the it's just those 2 columns, right?
C, D,
No, I
and E.
tried to take C, D,
I
and
don't-
E.
In the ones I checked, it was always C and D, not including
It could have
E.
been me grabbing the wrong thing. You can play with it.
It might just be, so we might not be
Yeah, because
looking at
I've
what we-
been playing with the numbers and
So then the to see if I understood what you're just explaining here. So the with inflation is supposed to be roughly in many cases that's taking out the 20% that would go towards the sewer allocation
Plus
and then
the
adding
inflation.
in the 6.5% inflation. Okay, I didn't see the formula as I was going through that, so it was a little bit tough for
I
me
might have,
to.
like I said, I
but-
was playing with it. And
Sure.
I've been, when I moved everything to the system, because the system is where, you know,
That's totally fine. It's just this is helping me to understand where it's coming from. Thank you.
Okay, and then the last thought, and we'll do this at some point, is, just really quick, just did what changed year over year? What
Right.
changed from here to there? And so at some point, we'll just want to focus on some of the bigger ones.
right, and I've keyed certain things
Okay.
to discuss.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, back with the accountants. They will be providing us a estimate as well for the upcoming budget year for additional services I may require or Brooklyn may require going forward to help us transition as well. So we'll be seeing that, and I'll be getting, right now I have an estimate of 6,500 in there. I'm anticipating that might be high or low. We'll see what they come in. He's hoping to give me that right away. Okay. Okay, just so board is understanding, I'm shooting for a truer cost of services. So that's part of why I'm looking for the board to make that decision on the allocation, because that will help with developing the sewer budget.
Okay, yes, Dan.
My only question is around how we've never done that before, where we've allocated some of the other staff to the sewer fund.
Oh,
How is that done? Is NICOM cool with that? Are our auditors
Oh,
cool
yeah.
with that? Okay,
The accountant is definitely agrees that that's appropriate and should be done. And actually, we did start doing that the last couple years. We didn't, I don't want to say we didn't take it to the other line items. We might have been handling it in an interfund transfer, which I know the comptroller wasn't happy with. And I don't want to use that mechanism because you have to have other tools involved with that, tracing this, tracing that. And honestly, and they even said, if you come up with a straight division, it's 50%, it's 25%. I think if we use the salary division, it's a good number to start with. And even Michael said that as well. He said that makes it
That was
absolutely
the
sense.
accountant that
Because
said
you can trace it right to why you're doing it. You do it with this, you do it with that, so everything is accountable.
that. Okay, yes, Justin.
Yeah, this sounds okay to me initially. I just wonder if, in terms of our own understanding of the budget, we want to keep a column in there that says this is the total allocation for that item, as well as the 20% off column, just so we can understand continuity year over year.
yeah,
And
and I agree with that, Justin. That's a good way to do it, because then we see whether there was an increase overall, and how we allocate it we'll deal with, but we are going to need visibility into that. I think that's a good idea.
And I have you just used the trustees as an example that potentially like it would be 25% of whatever our salaries are that we would allocate through the sewer fund because of the type of work that we do.
Correct.
But, I'm thinking like Zach, your percentage may be higher. Is that the idea that you're really going to sort of take a look across the board? So it like Zach could be, I don't know, 30%. I don't know.
I think
Current-
I'm thinking 40 currently.
Yes, Zach
You're
is
40.
40.
Okay, just so I'm understanding and we all
Yep.
here understand that this isn't like a straight, okay, it's just 25%. It's really looking at individuals' salaries, really where the time and the money's going.
Correct, because
Okay.
I'll take, and it's not picking on any employee, I'll take Sophie. When she's at the office, I charged her 25% to sewer, 75% to general, because she is looking up records and things related to sewer and doing sewer work. But yet when she goes back to DPW, she typically isn't in sewer, so she wouldn't have a 25% allocation. It's really looking at the position. You know what, let me share the wage screen. I think the wage sheet, I think that really shows the reflection.
Okay, because that's helpful, I think, too, to understand that.
Dorothea, it doesn't allow you to just average it? Or do you have to every season change it for her?
I-
It seems a little complicated.
Hold on. I get where you're going. Hold on here. I'm not as quick as sharing screens as some people here. I have to think about what I'm doing. Let me see here. So let me show Sophie. So here's the ACUS. If you go over to this percent column, it
Oh.
shows a 75-25 split.
Oh, I see.
But if you look at Michael James, our parking monitor, he's 100% general. He wouldn't be charged to sewer. And this is based off salaries. So here's the annual. Well, here's the projected annual. And then I broke that out to general and sewer.
Oh, that's helpful. Okay.
This is primarily was a sheet that Mary had
Yep.
done in the past. I just utilized it and had it do all the math for me.
Sure.
I did as you can see, the guy's 90-15, the board 75-25, and this did the projection.
Okay. Yep, Zach?
Not sure, the 90-15 for the crew at the shop. So it's hard to determine that right off the bat because our jobs fluctuate daily. And I mean, aren't you bound by that timesheet on how to allocate between general and sewer?
We still would bound, this is just giving us an overall estimate.
Right.
We cannot, when we get the timesheets, they'll be charged to the appropriate departments. So it's gonna end up the way it ends up. This is just giving us a
Yeah,
way to estimate the salaries over.
not to throw you off because it's probably pretty close. In fact, I mean, the reality might be closer to an 80-20 split by the time we get to the end of the year. Anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
How come we're over 100% on
Where are
those
we at?
90 and 15?
Oh, because Dorothea did not switch that 90 to 85.
Okay.
Good catch.
Thank you. You
That's
know,
what
when you
I-
start
No.
looking at these sheets, so many and playing with the numbers, you miss a certain allocation.
Yeah,
But
another way that you could maybe do this is instead of having, it looks like kind of a text column, you could just have like a sewer factor that says a percentage in each one and then automatically calculate the general.
I think I
versus
am
sewer.
doing that in the lines itself.
Gotcha.
I just had that there for, recognizing the split, but
Sounds good.
I was playing with the numbers. So I apologize. I just started doing this last 2 weeks and trying to get everything gathered. So I will fix these before we go forward.
Duly noted. Okay.
Okay. So does that explain the splits with
Mhm,
the salaries and everything
Mhm.
pretty well?
mhm.
We good with the sheet that I can stop sharing?
Yep.
Okay. So internally, just continue on the wish list items, the discussions, Zach, myself, Brooklyn and the mayor. We've sat down and had a couple budget meetings. I want to say 3 or 4, guys. Does that sound about right?
About right.
Yep. And our goal with this budget was to be realistic and doable. We want to make sure what we're proposing for the budget can be done, can be doable in the time frame we're proposing. Because to put in something into the budget that isn't going to be ascertained is a waste of energy. So we wanted to make sure what the board's time and discussion is on actual doable items to make sure we can get them done in the next budget year. So with that said, some of the wish list items are the toolcat, road projects, Zach will go over those, sidewalks, possible new phone system for the village office, training and accounting, additional accounting services. Other projects that we are hoping for the village office, we're hoping to obtain through the grants and outside funding, which would be bands or whatever we'll have to bring to the board. Those will be discussion items as they come up and if they're doable. Okay. I'd say 90% of estimates the board typically gets for the budget have been received. We still have a couple outstanding. I'm waiting on Gary Wilkins. Mindy didn't give us completely all her lines, and I don't know if that was oversight. We're waiting on her and we're waiting on Dan Spitzer,
Hodgson Russ. Yeah.
Hudson Ross. Okay,
Yes,
then-
Lily.
Did you get my wish list?
I didn't receive a wish list from you.
I
Did you?
sent it to Brooklyn back in January when he first asked for it.
January? I did not receive that. Brooklyn, did you receive a wish list from Lily?
If I did get it, it probably was forwarded to Mary at the time because Mary and I were the two that were doing the budget together. So that may be why you are excluded, Dorothea, from getting that forwarded to you.
Okay,
Okay, I apologize. I did not realize that was out
okay.
there.
I hope it's not too late.
No,
I'll
nothing
find
is,
it.
Oh, let's follow up. Yeah.
no, I'll get it and get it from you and we can look at it. I mean,
Yeah, I'm looking through my emails right now to.
Oh, thank you, Brooklyn. Thank you.
the one thing is the budget is balanced at this point. And
Does
I,
not bode well for my wish list.
no,
Not
let me just,
necessarily.
let me go there, because the one thing, there's still, I don't want to say there's still funds out there, but we need to look at those breakdowns and those other things. So we still can fund some things and the board still has the option of changing the way it's done. I really want to touch off really quick because I think the first question the board's going to ask me is how do we get to $1.8 million budget? when
Dorothea,
we are-
before you dive in, Dan, did you have your hand up?
Yeah,
with the question? Excuse me, Dorothea, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah, just really wanted to note that where we're starting is a 14% increase over the current. Just as a baseline, it's at a 14%
Mhm.
increase. I'm sure we'll adjust it from here and there, but for all
Right.
to know, we're starting at 14%.
but I want the board to know there's no tax increase. Okay, you're at 1.8, but that's based on additional revenues from sales tax and the use of CHIPS funds over last year. So there really is no increase to the residents. This is related to revenue offset. So we're balanced, and yes, we're at 1.8, but that's reflective of the revenues and the expenses. That is not sales tax. I mean, not sales tax, not property tax, okay?
Mhm.
So I just want to say, we're starting right now, this budget proposed, let's say if we went today, there would be no tax increase to the residents, okay? So, and Lily will definitely look at your wish list. I feel really bad. I didn't know it existed.
It's not exorbitant. It is not exorbitant in any way. No way.
We'll figure it out. So I figured what might be a good start is to bring up the general fund and we'll go over the system sheets and I'll touch on my highlighted items. And if anybody has any questions, we'll go from there, if that worked for the board.
How long do we think this meeting will be? I just need to figure out dinner for my kids. What time do we think we'll be done tonight?
Really depends on the board and the questions. If you love
I
my
mean, right-
budget, we're done.
Yeah, I mean, right now, you are being presented with, the overview of the budget, the goal of the budget. And Dorothea, thank you for providing that narrative and setting it up. You are also looking at right now, anyway, a balanced budget. So we do need to circle back. Obviously, we missed a wish list, but, I would say that, with the work that Dorothea and Brooklyn have put in, also along with Zach, we're in good shape, I think, in terms of the kinds of things we need to look at. I don't know that this has to be a particularly long meeting. We can always, we have other meetings scheduled and we can circle back.
Yep. And for the record, I don't think it's worth the board's time to touch on every single item. So I think I'm going to hit some highlighted things that I really feel like the board has influence on and concern about and let you go from there. And if there's obviously a line you feel more strongly about, jump in and let me know.
Okay. Wait,
How about
Dorothea,
maybe 6:30, since this is not our last meeting, hour and a half?
Sure.
Okay, roughly.
Or shorter.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So we would be addressing salary increases, potential salary increases.
Yep.
For staff, okay, and also projections for health insurance and New York
Yep.
State. Yeah, okay,
Yep, Dorothea's going to give you the run through.
okay, great.
She pulled out those things, that
Yep.
we need to look at. So
All right, let me get that sheet set up for you.
Can I also add that I am hopeful to get a board approval for 2 purchases tonight?
Have we got any background information? Have you sent us anything that I missed it?
There are quotes in the meeting packet that was sent out this afternoon.
Oh, this
Um,
afternoon, okay.
Yeah,
To be honest, I haven't gone through the.
if we don't
entire
get to it
packet.
tonight, we can put it on our meeting for next week.
the manholes need to be ordered as soon as.
Oh, the
possible.
manholes, yeah.
Yep.
We can talk, we can talk about that. Why don't we have Dorothea, do you want to set up the next part? And then Zach, let's circle back and talk about that. Yeah, you're right. I know where you're going with that.
Oh, it doesn't look, oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. As we pointed out and we discussed, the personnel services for the village board looks down because of the allocation to the sewer fund. The same thing for the mayor. The treasurer, and I'm going to roll up real quick and show the clerk. I handled that a little bit differently. What I did with that is I put Brooklyn's salary into the treasurer. I took the remaining salary of my general services for my salary and split it 50% into treasurer and village clerk. Okay. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. CPA support.
Does this reflect, and I'm sorry, does this reflect a percentage increase at all?
This is reflecting
The
with the cost of
6.7?
6.5 with the cost of
6.5.
living that is in the what's the rate agency, the
Okay.
it escaped me, where they set the inflation rates.
Right, inflation, okay.
Right, the board still has that decision to reflect. You could say you don't want to go 6.5, you want to go whatever. I just took the inflation rate.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
that the discussion that we had at one of our internal meetings was that that roughly mirrors the inflation rate for the northeast sector of this country. Inflation is actually higher in other regions in the United States. So I think that's sort of how that 6.5 came about.
But we can touch on that absolutely. I increased conferences, and some of these lines, the description I am going to change. I think conferences should really say conferences and training. And I increased that to 7,500 for additional needs there because we have a new deputy clerk. Brooklyn is needing additional training, and I'm going to request a little bit more myself.
Good.
Okay.
Before we get too far away from the salaries, the only thing, it's always awkward talking about salaries with the people in the room. But I would like to put out the idea of raising the mayor's salary. $14,000 for that job is just not enough. It is more or less a full-time job. And so.
I appreciate it, but I'm fine with it for this year, but thank you. I hear what you're saying, but for me, it's not as big a priority for this year. I'm glad that we're not going to have a tax increase, and I think that's good, and I'm fine with it, but thank you, Dan, because it is more than a part-time job.
And at some point, the board can take the salary wages and have a executive session and discuss raises, what they want to do with staff members, and
Yeah.
just relate that information.
Okay.
I just
And-
went with a
and-
general percentage.
The other thing I want to mention at this point is we don't know whether we're having a tax increase or not. I don't think it's fair to say we're not having a tax increase. This is the first day of doing
We're
this.
hoping to not.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure our
Yeah.
messaging is consistent.
We're hoping to not.
Okay.
If,
All right.
sorry,
Okay.
could I just mention
Oh,
one other thing on that same
sure.
page quickly? We had a meeting of the code update group the other day, and since there are a few sections of code that we might look to update, I just wanted to know if the code updates reflected just the codification for Eco 360, or is that additional code writing services from an attorney?
No, that wouldn't reflect attorney costs. That's just with dealing with the codes with the code company. So
Okay.
I did increase that to 4,700 to be reflective of, I anticipated we're going to have additional local laws to be passed to update the code.
Okay, so I guess if we're not including money for attorneys to help with drafting new code sections, that might be something that we want to consider based on our discussions and what we've talked about doing this year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that figure, I'm sorry. So
Yep.
that figure that you have there does not include the law aspect. It is only for the filing, the Monroe County filing,
Correct.
which is $1,500 each time. Okay.
But
Yep, that's with
do those costs, the attorney's costs, are they reflected potentially in their estimates that are contained in another line?
I would very well say if we're working with Jeff,
Yeah.
it would be reflective of his charge to the village, because that's part of his services, is
Right.
to review the local laws.
So you wouldn't see the attorney fees and the code updates. This line is more specific to
Got it.
the mechanics of how, of the
Mhm.
fees we pay when we update our code.
Okay,
Okay, any questions on this sheet? Okay, only thing I'm touching here, I have, oh, geez, I keep bouncing the sheet. In the banquet program, actually, this is from Mindy for additional services, 2,000, but I'm gonna move that. Or rename it, because she put in case the planning board needed additional services, and maybe that's reflective, Justin, of code updates or something like that. So I want it to reflect better, because the embankment that was for this year, it's not an ongoing line. So it needs to be relabeled, maybe into special project line or something like that.
Would that be maybe part of the LWRP that you're working on?
I don't,
Or would
No.
that be straight interlegal services? Just,
additional
Reflected in our-
services,
Okay.
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
understood.
Okay, engineering, we reflected, and the mayor will help me, or Brooklyn, even if you can chime in, or Zach, the contractual we have under general, this is typically something we've used Scott Harder for, and if you've seen his estimate, it was increased. This is saying contractual South Street design. What I want this to say is contractual larger engineering projects where we'd go outside of Scott, where, Scott would say that's well above me. So this money is reflective of possible projects on Shane with the canal, whatever
Right.
additional services we'll need. And that's where really we want to put out a bid, and I'm hoping to get that together soon for the board's approval to do for larger projects, to have a engineer already approved for the village's use. Okay,
Did,
Renee?
Oh, so that was my question with that section. If anything in the project for the new median on State Street, those are most immediate costs, but I didn't know if that was included in that. I mean, if you rename that South Street design one to a bigger one, do we have funds in there to cover the SRF? Part
The
of it,
SRF, we already did last budget.
we did for
and
this time, but
improved.
that's for but I mean, we may need a real design, like that's for a concept, correct? What we approved,
I'm not sure what SRF, I
okay.
think it was.
I don't know if there'll be additional costs there that we just need to factor in, that's all.
Yeah, you know what, why don't we, I can start, in fact, I was just talking to Dave Cruz or emailing him. Let's circle back to see if there will be anything incremental. They had indicated that it was a fairly straightforward design. So even though we're using the word conceptual, it may actually be, look, this is what we're looking at. Here's
Yeah,
our
it's pretty
design.
straightforward,
Yeah.
so I just didn't know how many iterations. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we can circle back and just make sure that we're within parameters on that. Yeah, Lily.
thank you. I noticed on the Zoglin estimate for the rest of the year, I thought there was a letter in here. I
Yep.
was basing it on that, but I'm not seeing it here reflected of her estimate going forward was
Yep.
like 5,800, 5,800. I'm doing that
No.
from memory.
No,
Okay,
it was 19.2. She kept her estimate the same for planning, and she estimated $2,000 for additional services.
okay, so, but what I'm looking at is LWRP. I assume that refers to 75 Monroe. Is that what you're calling it, LWRP?
That was what Mary had called it, and
Okay,
it
I
was.
I just want to
we-
know.
No, it was 15,000 last year, and we
Uh-huh.
have not, Mindy did not give me a quote for this year for it. So
Okay,
that
that's
is
what,
We're
And
still
that-
waiting on that. Yeah.
that's a follow-up with Mindy.
okay, thank you, because I think that might put a little glitch in the
legal
balance
numbers.
part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because we're
yeah.
at 15,000, I think, already so far. Of course, I
Um,
might be looking at November but consistently, we've been at about 6,000 each billing period for Mindy's services for, I'm gonna call it 75 Monroe so that we all know what we're talking about. For 75 Monroe. And going forward, we might be, they're not done yet, so we might be we should be a little bit anticipatory, I think.
Through,
This might be too low.
Lily, through December, we spent $3,874 on the LWRP. So
Okay,
that's through December. So like I said, we really do need to reach, we
Yeah.
did agree we
Okay,
need to
because
reach
they
out
were
to
just
her.
getting started. Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
no.
I just,
So I agree, Lily, sorry to jump in. Lily, I agree, we should be conservative in those estimates and aggressive in being conservative because it's not done. And secondly, it brings to another point, which is next time you run this, Dorothea, will
Mhm.
you just include a column for a year to date? I know we're not complete yet, but it gives us something to go off of.
Okay, the
Thanks.
budget program doesn't give me that capability of throwing year to date.
Ask them, I'm gonna guess they'll figure out a way to do that.
I'll look at it and see what we can do.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so moving forward. Village Hall, this is where we're reflecting the additional for a phone system. Okay. Nothing major.
What's the need on new phone system?
The current phone system is lacking and it's having difficulties. Sometimes we lose calls. One best thing I can tell you is I have phantom messages. Sometimes I have a message, I go to get it, there's no message. Sometimes all of a sudden it says I have 2 messages, I have 4. The system is not functional with our needs. It would be nice to get another system where we could actually transfer a call to DPW or do what needs to be appropriate. We're looking at it. We've gotten one system shown to us would be a monthly cost. We're not sure. So what we did is we put in a little money for a phone system if we can find something that works.
Yeah, and the current system's actually fairly outdated, as I believe, isn't it, in terms of functionality?
Yes. Okay. Any further questions?
I'm sorry. Forgive me, I have to go backwards.
Okay,
Okay. I'm looking on page, oh, I don't have a page number. I think it's page 2, under general fund. And it's under newsletters. And we've got 0 pretty much across. And then we've got 4,000
correct.
proposed for the, and for 4,000 for newsletters. Can you tell me why the jump?
Actually, I should have proposed to put that under the wish list items. That's one of the things that the mayor was hoping we could kick off the actual printed newsletters to residents again.
Yeah,
Okay,
just upping our communication. That's from my wish list, I think. that-
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Agreed.
okay. So that is for a printed quarterly newsletter to go to all residents, 4,000.
That's the hope.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, touched on this sheet. Real quick, I'm noting FOPV settlement and Hudson agreement in our debt schedule. This is the last payment to both of those items. Okay,
Unless we decide to put extra funds to it this year.
correct. But
Okay,
not knowing at this point, by the time we have to budget, we need to reflect that.
sure.
Okay. Nothing else on this sheet of any real changes. Let's see here. Under transportation, road work various, this is where we show the increased road projects. And Zach, do you want to touch on your road projects that you proposed?
Yes, so I believe it's at the bottom of this meeting packet. There's a list of roads, Washington, Lincoln, and Boughton that are due for a surface treatment, which is stone and oil. Boughton is kind of unsure if that's the proper way to go because we're already seeing drainage issues on that road because it wasn't done right in the first place back in 2013 when it was milled and paved. So any surface treatments that we do to it is just going to raise the height of the grade of the road, and the runoff water is already having residents are already having issues with runoff water running back into their properties and not draining properly. So not sure if that's the proper way to go yet, but it is on the schedule for a surface treatment. So that's why I included that.
Can I just interject really quickly because with the South Street project, we also have Wood where, that's going to, get curbing and paving. So we know that there's a flood issue, where water collects right at Wood and Boughton. So I think, from correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, but that's, some of the talks we've been having is how do we tie this in at this point, if Boughton's on the schedule?
Right,
Are we
so-
going to be able to do what we really need to do to make sure we're getting proper drainage all the way down from South to Wood to Boughton?
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out a way to tie Wood into to South Street project. And then ultimately also tying Boughton into Wood Street, which is going to be a bit problematic with the drainage. Wood Street's a problem. Drainage is the runoff is running back into people's driveways there and creating flooding and icing problems. So it's just a matter of trying to tie all these roads in together and where it's best to put the money. If we do any surface treatments to Boughton, that's just gonna exacerbate any issues that we have on there already. So just trying to figure out where best to put the money.
What would happen if we left Boughton off the schedule this year? Is it desperately in need, or is it just because it's coming up again in the cycle?
It's just it's the proper time, if the road was done right, to do it, to maintain the integrity of the road for the next 30 years. But we can push it off for another year until we sort things out a little bit.
And then maybe do it properly where we really redo the
Yeah.
road bed?
If we
Okay,
wanted to get into a deeper reclamation of the road,
Okay,
yeah, we can put that off for another year.
and so that's similar to what we would be doing on South, that we would be doing this on Boughton in the same way.
Correct.
Okay, no, it's helpful just to understand it, I think. Yes, Lily?
Did you mention Sutherland in that list? I'm sorry.
I did not, because Sutherland is still up in the air of it needs a water main run down the middle of the road going up the
Okay.
hill. And South Street's that's a pretty massive project we've been putting off for about 5 years now. So that road's first, then we get to Sutherland. Hopefully.
Okay, well, just anecdotally, I will mention that Boughton it was too high, as you know, when it was originally done. So
Yeah.
to add to that is just going to exacerbate the problems with the flooding that they're having. And I think that's a good idea to wait on that and see what happens when South Street is repaved and how that all works out, because we might have a bit larger problem on our hands.
I agree. Thanks, Lily.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And so just to kind of like take the deep breath and see if we do need to rebuild that road bed on Boughton, let's do it correctly.
Yeah.
Where we get the proper drainage for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's got too big of a hump in the middle. It needs to be
Okay,
down.
One method that we could do is get South Street and Wood Street sorted out. And then hopefully 3 years down the line, we can revisit Austin and Jackson at the same time as we revisit Boughton, and tie all 3 of those roads in together properly with Wood Street. So everything has a positive drainage flow and the runoff goes where it's supposed to.
okay.
Austin and Jackson will be due for another surface treatment, if not a full reclamation, probably in another 3 years, 4 years or so.
So we would look at this essentially as an entire sort of quadrant
Yes.
on that side of the village, and just make sure that, because the hip bone's connected to the knee bone, the
Yeah.
roads are all connected in terms of drainage. So, okay, that's helpful.
I
Okay,
think
what
Renee
else?
had a question.
Oh, yes, Renee, sure.
It's for the road schedule for this summer, given that our arterial roads are going to be undergoing resurfacing and we don't yet have a schedule for that. Is that going to impact any of what we do? Do we need to leave south? Last year, we had to leave south B because it was another egress route for the fire services or for the emergency services. Are we going to have that issue here?
I think by the time we actually get a plan on paper and work started on South Street, the DOT project should be well underway. First phase of the South Street project would be revamping all of the curb ramps, making them all ADA compliant, and then going through and milling and paving the road after that. So
Okay.
if we can get even one phase of it done this year, toward the end of the season, so pushing into fall, maybe we can do a early spring mill and pave on the rest of the road, tie it all together.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think we can schedule it around DOT's project.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's tricky. All of our roads are gonna be.
Yeah,
It's
everything's
the road repair
impacted.
season, yeah.
It's gonna be a mess for a while.
Okay, we
So,
ready to move on? Zach?
yeah, I think I covered everything, roadways.
Okay, well, you're gonna jump in again because we're going to equipment where it says Speed Century again. It's not a Speed Century in this one. It's gonna be a toolcat and any other needs for the department. And I guess I'm leaving that for you to talk
Okay, so is this where I ask for more financial support from you guys?
about. Yeah,
Yeah, this would be it.
So our toolcat is a 2017. If you would, today was the day that the estimate was also included with a budget packet, but the replacement for the toolcat is $77,000. That's a big purchase. Our current toolcat, the floor pans are rotted out. So we had to take old street signs and kind of fix them in place with a bunch of silicone and a lot of hope to kind of limp it along and continue to use it on a daily basis. And it's still one of our main pieces of equipment. So I got an estimate for replacement, and with the increase in prices with everything, the toolcat was with it. So when we first purchased the 2017 toolcat that we have, it was $51,000, I believe. And we do get a breakthrough in New York State contracting, which is huge. I think that's around 24% of the cost of the machine. So I broke it down to what we would actually end up paying. So the MSRP is $77,686. Our state contract discount is $14,451.40. Our snow blower attachment would be an additional $7,500 on top of the cost of the vehicle, and snow plow would be another $4,500. Trade-in value for what we have is $22,000. So for $53,234.60, we can give them a toolkit if you guys approve it.
One of the concerns, Zach, is the delay in being able to get these items.
Yeah, so everything is delayed right now, months out, and the sales rep from Bobcat said that if we were able to give a letter of intent today, that we might be able to see the toolcat by mid to late summer. But if we wait till June 1st, we'd be hopeful to see it by snowfall of next year. So because of the delay, I am asking if you guys would also approve signing or writing a letter of intent for the purchase of this, so we could submit it before the next fiscal year starts, just to move the process along and
To
hope
get
that
it in
we-
the hopper, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I had a meeting with Bill Smith recently, and he said that the town, supply chain issues. And so he said the town they have a 12 to 14 month wait on some pieces of equipment.
yeah.
I mean, this is every municipality, I think, is really struggling with this.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. If we were to purchase a new flush truck, which we're also looking into, it's about 18 months out before we'd be able to take hold. Everything is just delayed. It's all on back order. So trying to just move the process ahead, just so we'd be able to see something a little bit sooner, just because I am concerned of the safety and reliability of the toolkit that we have right now.
Oh, it's a Fred Flintstone mobile. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lily.
Thank you. Yes, Zach, did we have a spreadsheet on the priority list of equipment replacement? And where did
Yes.
this, yeah, thank you. And where did
So-
this fall into it? And how is that going to push out anything else that you were looking at on your wish list?
Well,
For instance,
the
the flush truck was one.
The flush truck was one. The other ones were truck 1 and truck 2, which are the 6-wheel dump trucks that we have. One is a 2000 and the other one is a 2008. Both of those would be between 180 and $250,000 to replace. So given the current financial situation, it's not really feasible to request something like that. So going to be trying to set aside money in order to hopefully get replace one of those trucks in a couple of years. This can's been kicked down the road for 5 years. I've been pitching the replacement of these trucks, which is difficult to do because they're so costly. Our 2 1-tons are still fairly new. If we were following a replacement schedule, then I would put the 2015 on there, and also truck 3, which is 2016 F350 that I drive around in, just to keep on schedule with replacement. That would be getting back the most value for that vehicle before it ages to the point where we're spending more money. When we purchase these pieces of equipment, we're given a government rebate, a discount. So if we turn them over fast enough, it's almost the amount of money that we spend in the end is almost even for if we turn the vehicles over quick enough.
It's far less because you're right. You're saying that essentially the resale value still holds, because where the market is right now.
Yep. So the toolcat, it's an anomaly. I'm not sure why it failed like it did. Bobcat, the steel that they use is really probably on the cheaper end, and that's unfortunate for us. And I'm sure that's why these floor pans are rotted out to the point where we can see daylight through them. But this time through, we're going to do some things different, and that's undercoating it with a rubber to help prolong the life of it. I didn't expect this piece of equipment to fail. So
right. In other words, Lily, what I get where you're going with this. The toolcat wasn't in the schedule. It
Yeah.
rotted out.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know how that would affect
Yeah.
the priority list of priorities going forward, so that 6 months from now, you would have to approach the board because suddenly I'll use this as an example, that not that this is the one, that the F-15 has to be replaced because it was on the schedule to be done, and now it has to be done. And you understand what I mean? We've prioritized the toolcat.
Every year we've added more and more money to the maintenance of the vehicles, the budget line for that, just because of the 2 big dump trucks that are 22 and
Yeah, they're older.
15 years old. So they take more and more money to keep them going. So there's more money added to those lines to offset that. Instead of spending $250,000 to replace our main plow truck, we might spend $15,000-$20,000 to fix it, whatever maybe go wrong. I don't think we're to that point this year, but
Okay.
you never know what's going to go next.
Well, then-
So this is just to offset it, and we really haven't been able to follow a replacement schedule, since I've been in this position, just because of situations. So we're not really pushing anything out except for what's already been
Okay.
proposed year after year. The other trucks, they're in well enough shape to get by another year, unless something unforeseen happens. I can't predict.
Okay. Well, then, based on your assessment and your experience, then I would agree with what you are requesting. Because,
you.
okay.
May I just ask another related question? I was trying to raise my hand, but maybe with the screen sharing, we can't see all those.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you.
Oh, no worries.
Apologies.
No worries. I do have the DPW equipment replacement schedule in front of me, and I've got a copy from January 21. I had questions similar to Lily's, and I was just wondering if we could, it sounds like this does make sense, and certainly we don't want anybody using unsafe equipment with the floor pan rusted out. But I would like to understand in the context of the other large equipment that we have, what does this push off, and how is it related to those larger expenses? Could we have an updated, so a January 22 copy of the large equipment replacement summary with this item in there, so we can see how this will all play out? and then make our decision at the next meeting?
Yes, I could put something like that together.
I mean, it might just be a couple of tweaks based on the last 21 worksheet, if that seems reasonable, just so we can kind of see all of it in the same place. And
Yeah, and I think also because we are having to factor in a toolcat, which wasn't before. I
It's-
think it would be
Yeah.
more reflective, more current.
yeah, it's
So-
on, the toolcat is on there, just I
But
think
it's
it's premature
different.
failure.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'll put that together for you, Justin.
Okay, thank you very much, Zach. Yeah, I've
Sure.
got the, if you need a copy of the 21 spreadsheet, let me know.
Okay.
okay, what else?
Moving down, repairs and material, Zach, again, this is reflective of what you just said. We increased that budget to cover any additional failures we might have with the dump trucks or other equipment. Is that correct?
Correct. If you're asking me.
Is there any questions more on this sheet before I move on?
No, I think you've covered it.
Okay, Brooklyn, I'm going to ask you to jump in on this one as well. The contractual for, this is DPW, this seems to be the line that a lot of things are put into, such as utilities and everything. Zach and Brooklyn can talk about this. My concern, obviously, as I said in the front, beginning of the meeting, I want to break this line out to reflect utilities and things so you can see for the DPW. So Zach, can you explain this line as well as Brooklyn?
I mean, I know you asked for Zach, but I can kind of jump in. As I
Sure.
was taught, this line was our contractual line for DPW. So as it was explained to me, anything that we require to run the DPW goes under that line as far as utilities, supply purchases. So this line has a very broad range of items that it covers.
So it's when you say supply purchases, it could be just, have like our accountant Debbie supply in addition
Co-
to just straight up utility bills that we pay.
Correct. So a lot of times,
Oh,
I'll ask
okay.
for details from Zach when he comes in. So if they're working on a specific project or anything like, if they're getting cement and it was for sidewalks, we will take that out of sidewalks compared to just throwing it into that fund. But if they're getting, I'm trying to think of something he said that would be used all throughout the DPW. That's when it goes to contractual. So
So-
that also
like-
covers.
So we
Cleaning
can,
supplies, WD-40,
Yeah.
garbage bags, mutt mitts,
Yeah.
that kind of.
got you. So there's that, but I guess I can understand why we would want to maybe have like a little bit of a finer cut with that category to sort of be more reflective, because utilities are different from, maybe that's a different category or go somewhere else. I don't know. What are your thoughts, you guys? Anyone?
Feels like the utilities, things like that are fixed costs, should be on their own line. We do that with other things.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. We do that with general, and that was one of my concerns, and that's one of the things, and obviously I didn't have a lot of time to start doing that kind of changes, but I do want to get in there and break that down, because I think that's better, easier for the board, for me to see what is it costing to run the DPW,
Yeah, what's our
utility
burn rate?
wise and everything. Yeah. So I really feel if the board agrees, I'll move to separating those out, so we have a truer picture with that.
okay, and so then really contractual, just that sort of catch-all sort of line, I guess what I'm hearing is it's not really reflecting to anybody reading that line. We wouldn't know utilities was in that, we wouldn't necessarily know. So we're just looking maybe at a little more clarity with that. Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, that's all I had on that sheet. Is everybody good with everything on here? Sidewalk replacement, again, Zach.
Hit it, Zach.
So one big project that I proposed for last year, but it was undoable, was the replacement of the sidewalk from Shane Place to the village line on the north side of State Street. It's costly, it's long, it's I think about 650 feet long. So I'm once again proposing that to be done too, because parts of it are 4 feet wide, which is no longer compliant. It doesn't work for us getting our equipment down there for plowing. We end up tearing up yards. And some sections are cracked and it just doesn't make sense to go through and piece by piece replace it. It would just, while everything's being tore up by the DOT, it'd just be a good year to go in, tear it out and have it replaced. And it's a large project, which kind of takes us out of being able to do it. And all of the debris would end up back at our shop, which then we would have to find a place for it, which we do have. It's a possibility to put it at Layman's Dump, but we don't have a contract with them. We kind of piggyback off the town's contract, which I don't really like to overuse. So I would propose that we hire a contractor to come through and tear it out and replace it for us, which is going to be the most expensive way to do it, but kind of necessary. And then another section on State Street between South and Boughton. One of the residents is having issues with runoff water running back toward their front steps. And it's due to the sidewalk being pitched the wrong way. And I was really, the only way to fix it is either to start putting in drainage structures along the sidewalk through there, which is going to be a giant pain because now you have to tie it into what's in the road, or to tear out what the section of sidewalk that's there, raise it, re-pitch it, so it has positive flow back toward the street. And this again is a large project. We could probably tear this one out and get rid of the concrete ourselves, but it would require hiring a contractor to pour the sidewalk for us. I believe Dorothea, is that? Yeah, I do have it in a breakdown of the costs and the reasoning in the budget meeting packet. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it.
May I ask for a clarification, Zach?
Yeah.
The section you just mentioned on South and Boughton, wasn't that put in by the DOT?
Yes, they, just like all the mains throughout here, they will establish it and then it's up to us to maintain it.
But if
So
they
I've
put it
reached out
in correctly. should-
Well,
Here
it
we
may have-
go. Yeah,
and that's my argument with them. And it's always a back and forth, and you know, I really don't see how we would win against them in this argument. It may have been that it was, you know, it had a positive flow back toward the street when they installed it, and things settle over time. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But they
And then
are.
this,
Go ahead.
okay, I'm sorry. And then the section, the proposed section between the village line and Durham Way, which is proposed, didn't the DOT say they were going to install that as part of the project?
They are going to be doing that part. The section that I'm referring to here is across the street on the north side of the road.
Oh,
on
okay,
the other side.
Yeah,
okay,
so
Yeah.
it's basically just replacing what's there from Shane Place down to the village line. Or the
Okay.
pension, pretty much.
thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. I mean, we probably can, over the course of a year, just little by little, get rid of some of the concrete if we wanted to tear it out ourselves and bring it back to our shop for storage reasons. It might be doable, but sometimes our yard gets filled up pretty quick, and it's a lot of concrete.
It's a lot.
Yep.
What would the cost savings be?
If we were to tear it out ourselves and get everything prepped and then do the restoration on all the lawns through there, it would be, for that one section on State Street between number 50 and 76, $21,000, $21,045. If we were to have it done from start to finish, carrying it out, forming it, pouring it, and then restoring the lawns and the driveways if they have to be cut back, then that would be 28,954.
Yeah,
Couldn't a French drain be installed? Would that be less money to run a French drain along the edge of that sidewalk?
Yeah, as long as you can get rid of the water, where's it gonna go? So if we have to tie it into the street, then we're digging underneath curbing and through the right of ways and everything. So that's a big project on itself.
Okay.
And I mean, it might be that, the two things will have to go hand in hand. I don't know. The section on between Boughton and South, I think I might bring Scott Harder in and have him take elevations of it to see if that is the best method of doing this. So that one's still kind of up in the air, I guess.
how long ago was that done by NISTOD?
Oof,
So a while back?
way before my time. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because Lily, I asked the same question of Zach about that stretch, and it seems like once they complete it, it's ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Unfortunately.
they claim it's ours, whether it's ours or not.
Well, yeah, that's true too. That's an ongoing discussion.
Yeah. But they're doing a lot of improvements for crosswalks and stuff. So I really don't want to rock the boat too much while they're doing this other stuff.
Yeah, they've been forthcoming.
Renee has her hand up.
Yes, Renee.
Do we, Lily asked the questions about which part DOT was handling that I had a question about too. And you mentioned that it would be changing the dimensions of it a little bit. Do we have to do any approval with NISDOT for the wider sidewalk that's now built to code that we're talking about replacing? And do we need any design costs built in for that? Or is that pretty straightforward?
That's pretty straightforward because there are already sections of 5-foot sidewalk through there. So it would basically just be straightening it out.
Okay.
And yeah, any changes would be done in the tree lawn side, not the private property side. So it would be pretty straightforward and simple to do so.
Great, thanks.
I don't think the DOT would have any problems with us doing it. And besides, I mean, if it's our responsibility to maintain it, then what are they going to say? I mean, I'm sure they could say something.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Was there any other questions on the sheet as I move on?
Whoops, sorry, one other
Oh,
quick one.
Justin, yeah.
What's in the Arboretum item?
I didn't receive any estimates. We anticipated something would want to be done with the Arboretum, so we put a figure in there as a starting point. We weren't sure. So
I was just wondering if Zach could give us a number on, maybe this is already planned for somewhere else, but just basic maintenance of the trails. So trimming the weeds, erosion control on the trails when necessary. They were getting pretty rutted and beat up, especially compared to the town side last year.
Well, most of that's going to be just our labor. There might be some material used for, weed whipper string. Mower blades, if you go back there and the heavy brush damages our mower blades and they need to be replaced. Straw bales, possibly. Maybe some silt fencing if we need it. I can't imagine it's going to be
Okay.
So the
much
two-
more than the $2,000 that it looks like. it's
Okay,
being-
that was the question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if that was accounted for in there somewhere. Didn't think it would be a huge amount, but if we could make sure that's in there, I think that would be a help to people using those trails.
Sure.
Yep, I think that's in there. Okay.
and nothing on this sheet that was concerning me.
Before we go away from Zach, how much does your team give input into these priorities?
Fair amount. I mean, I run everything by everybody just to get their input, and they tell me a lot of things that they see while they're out on the road that I take into consideration. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. That's what I thought. I just felt like asking.
It's pretty interactive. They're all sets of eyes and ears on the ground. I mean, it's a pretty solid team. They come up with good ideas and good input.
All right, moving forward, any questions here? I didn't highlight anything of concern for myself, so. 10, same thing. I think pretty much. Okay, employee benefits, state retirement, you can see quite a reduction. Actually, I included the wrong state retirement notice in with yours. We have a reduction. They dropped down, I want to say 54,000 with a breakdown between general and sewer, which has been done in the previous years. So we did see a significant drop. The state fund, as we learned, they had a really awesome year and they passed that savings on to the employers with a reduced rate. So that's why you're seeing that reflection. But in the same instance, if I go down to health and dental, we are seeing an increase because we have more employees participating in the health and dental as well. So that's why I wanted to touch on those too. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. And that's everything. That service stayed the same. I included the bond note. We still paying off the bond, and that's, I think, on another, I think 2025 is when that pays off. We have the leased equipment and those are coming off. Brooklyn, correct me, in the next 5 years, 5 to 6. Okay.
Sorry about that. I got to unmute. Yes, they did say the predictive tool will be able to go 5 years in the future.
Okay. So this brings us to revenues. Now, the real property revenue, you're seeing the real property taxes, it looks like it increased, but really it isn't changed. If you've seen the note I received from the assessor with the new assessments, that's not showing an increase in assessments because that was pushed off another year due to COVID. But what did change is the in lieu of property, that was the Comida property. So where you see the 896, that's including that amount. If I go to the next one, you see where the 11,000 was, now it's 0 because it's pushed into the tax base. And that's as it should be. Okay, any questions there?
So go back, it went up by the same 11K.
Yes, it went up by
Okay.
that, and it's a little minor increase. It must be a little something in there with assessment that increased minorly. Okay. So then we come down to Monroe County sales tax. I did up that number. I didn't go to the full scope of what we're looking to collect this year. I think it's not prudent. I did drop it down. So I rose it to reflect that we will anticipate we're going to have more, but
What do we think we'll collect this year?
I'm estimating 657,000. That's up from last year. This year, I'm thinking we're going to be, wow, if we get
Yeah.
another 170 check, we'll be about 150 up. We'll be looking in 700 and something. I don't
Okay.
think it's prudent to say we're going to collect the same amount, or we don't know what's really going to happen. And I do need to, I have a call out to Monroe County to see if they can give me an estimate for next year, but.
So the
happy
guess
that-
on this year is 700K and you're estimating it's 657 to keep it conservative.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay, gross receipts. Any question? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say too, we're also, now inflation's really hitting. So it may really impact sales tax again.
Right.
Some of these checks were sort of prior to really inflation bumping up.
Gross receipts, we're going to be seeing additional gross receipts through the RG&E with that settlement. Looking at that, again, I upped it a little bit. I didn't want to go too strong in there, but I feel we will be seeing more funds out of that.
Yep.
Okay. Nothing changing on this sheet. And the sale of equipment per Zach with the sale of the tool cat. I didn't go to 22,000. Again, not sure what we're going to get. Didn't want to be too high, went 15,000. Mortgage tax, I did up that to 45. We still have another check coming in. I think that's a more accurate reflection of what we can anticipate. And the use of the CHIPS funds to cover the tool cat.
I don't know about that. That might be a place we might want to be conservative because interest rates have gone up, which means less people will be refinancing, which means we'll get less in mortgage taxes. I don't know, it might be a place to be a little bit more conservative, but we can talk
Mhm.
about that later. It's fine.
Revisit that, okay.
Okay. And that is pretty much it. I didn't appropriate any fund balance. I didn't do any interfund transfers and can't anticipate federal grants. And I did speak to the accountant related to the ARPA, the way we labeled it. It is labeled wrong. It should not be in our this year's revenues. It has to go to another fund because it's overinflating our revenues we received this year, and it can't be accounted that way. So we're going to make that corrective action as a corrective entry and won't require board
So it
approval.
essentially would just be like its own fund, like its own little reserve.
Yeah, as I
Kind
was
of-
saying, it's almost like its own little reserve. We have to budget to use it. Having it in our current revenues makes it overestimated of revenues received, and that's what we don't want to
Okay.
have.
Okay.
Okay,
And evidently, just as a quick update, I guess they're still at the federal level, looking to expand use of ARPA funds again, because they've gotten a tremendous amount of feedback from municipalities that it's somehow, somewhat restrictive. So
Mhm.
it could free it up again for other uses. We're just
Sure.
waiting to hear.
and that's really all I have for the board at this time. Is there any questions, concerns, anything you want me to?
A couple things, really terrific work from both of you. Really appreciate it. So really great start. A couple requests for, if not the next meeting, then future meetings. One will be to see if we can get that column in there for actuals year to date. And if not, then just send the actuals that you have, because they're the same budget line items. We can look at both next to each other and that kind of thing. But I have a feeling somebody from the company will know how to add that to the report. The second thing is I would like to have a discussion on salaries, because it's such a huge chunk in there, and really want to see that 20% and understand what we're doing for each employee, and what we spent over the last year on our staff and those kinds of things, and really do a deep dive on that. Those were and then the actuals will answer a lot on the legal stuff. So those are my two requests for the next few meetings.
That sounds good. Yep. Yes, Justin?
Just a really quick comment, not a big deal, but thank you. As Dan was saying, I think this is a very good start. Thank you for all your work on this. One thing that I noticed in terms of the labor attorney costs, they've gone up to $10,000 for this year. It might just be something that we want to look at. I know there were some things related to COVID, some things related to staffing changes. I wonder if the increase in budget for the next year is reflective of changes that we anticipate, or is this just kind of a new normal with our cost of labor to or our cost to the attorney for labor legal consultation is just going up? That's something we
Really
can talk
quick,
about
I
in the
can
future.
answer that. We're going into union negotiations this year,
Gotcha.
so we
Okay.
budgeted extra for that.
Okay, thank you.
Not the next meeting, but at a future one, I'll just want to sort by the line items that have increased the most and talk about those. And I know we did some of that today, but I want to do that in a very sort of purposeful way.
Would you like that? Should we break that out just even as sort of a separate kind of sheet where we're just really looking at specifically those increases? Would that be helpful?
No, because we have it in Excel, that
Okay.
is just a
Okay.
couple minutes to make that work.
Okay,
So I've already got that, but I want to get a little farther into the process before we
Gotcha.
do that explicitly.
alrighty. Alrighty. Okay, anything else from anybody? We kind of got the big picture here. Zach?
I just don't want to miss my opportunity for board approval for the purchase of the manholes for everybody. signs
If I
off.
can stop sharing this, I can go ahead and show that estimate
Oh,
from Zach
that'd be
if
great.
everybody's good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Zach, as she's pulling this up, I just had one question. I think you mentioned the self-leveling manholes. I believe we talked about that in a previous meeting. What was I think there's a different type of manhole cover that you could use too that might be less expensive. Is this the kind that is correct for the purpose, or? Is
Yes.
there?
So I took a tour with EJ Rep. EJ is the company that casts the manhole frames and covers for us, whether they're the self-leveling or the standard. And we identified 7 areas where this would probably be beneficial to have due to the heaving and settling in the roads. I don't know if you've driven down North Main Street past the office, also where Holiday Hots usually sets up. That is typically caused because the road moves and the manhole frames do not. So with the self-level lid will actually rise and fall with the road as it does. So potentially less wear and tear on the asphalt around it, which means less potholes and just a more comfortable ride. So it's just kind of a good way to test these out on a very heavily driven road with lots of heavy equipment, vehicles, and possibly putting them on our own roads in certain areas if we know they're up to the task and if they're worth spending the extra funds. And the reason why I'm kind of pushing this along for the DOT project is because the DOT will install them for us at no cost. We just have to supply the material to them.
Can you speak also, sorry to interrupt, but I just want you to speak to, because this is a conversation you and I had a while back, which really helped me understand how unique these self-leveling units are, that
Yeah.
they, the time span that they last, and also relative to annual labor over and over again, relative to the road sinking or, the manhole cover not being level year after year.
So the way that they're designed is there are 3 parts to them. There's a base frame that sits on top of the barrel structure for the manhole, which is in our case all brick and mortar. Then there is another part that slips over that frame, and it has a gasket around it that seals itself to the frame that's on the barrel. And then there's a lid. The part that fits over the bottom frame, when it's first set, it's set with about 2 inches of adjustment vertically going down. So it does have room to float down 2 inches and then also rise up 5 inches. So there's 7 inches of adjustability to it. The way that the frame is also designed is that it sets itself into the material, whether it be asphalt or concrete. So there's no sharp edges. I don't know if you've ever heard of a plow going across a steel manhole frame that's square edged and it bangs. We've had instances where it's actually stopped our big plow, at about 8 miles an hour, just coming to an immediate halt because there's just no give in either side. So this is an eased edge, so plows will float over it rather than bang off of it and break it or break a plow or just chew the road up. It's just kind of a neat design that seems to only be functional with the.
So it protects equipment. It also, you're not constantly, potentially replacing the manhole covers when you're fixing the road. So this is a longer term solution that's more expensive up front, but over time is a stronger solution for certain
Right.
areas. I don't think that we need them everywhere, but for certain, as you say, heavily trafficked areas.
Yep. So it just seems like a better situation, especially on DOT roads. And this is only specific areas where they're going to be in the travel, the wheel part of the lane. So where those wheels will be traveling over them, more or less.
What's the cost difference between these and the normal ones? These are, because we're
Well-
ordering 27 of these and they're $625 each. So you get about 17,000 in these self-leveling.
So don't go by the quantity on this. This was just to get an idea of the
Oh,
cost as a comparison. So we have 11 standard frames on hand at our shop. So the frames and the covers, we have 11 of those. What we're looking at is the possibility of adding 10 self-leveling ones. So this is an older quote, and currently everything seems to be changing price-wise daily. So I'm gonna guess that if we were to get 10, it'd probably be around $900 per frame and cover. So just to be on the safe side, I would say budget $9,000 for 10 self-adjusting frames and covers.
Again, it's
Um,
limited to the heavily traffic areas specifically.
And I have to add that this is still pending on the approval from the DOT. I have a call out to the engineer in charge of this project. And he's still weighing the options, and he's reaching out to his contractor to see if there's going to be more cost on their end for the installation of these, because they are a little more installation intensive. If there is a number that they are not willing to work with in terms of installing these, then these will not be a go. We'll go with all standard frames and covers. But I'm just more or less asking for the approval of the purchase of at least 10 of them. If, you know, we'd be fine with 8 of them if you guys were, if you guys wanted to try it, but no guarantee that we're going to be using them because it's all dependent on the DOT to.
So it would be a
approve that.
conditional approval based on the additional approval from NISTOT.
Correct. So 10, up to 10 of the self-level frames and covers. So I would say $900 a piece for those. And we would need an additional 7 or 8 for of the standard ones to complete the 27 that are needed for this DOT project. And again, this is great for us to do this all right now. At least if not use the self-level, but to replace every one of them while the DOT is offering to do the labor for free for installation.
Yeah,
Remind me, did we need to get a few quotes on this, or did we?
This is all off a state contract
Ah,
bidding, so
okay.
it's unnecessary. I just need board approval for the purchase.
I'll make a motion to approve the quote.
Well, we're not, sorry, just, we're not approving this quote, though. I just would like to be clear how much money we're approving.
I would ask that you at least approve $13,000, and that would be for $9,000 worth of self-level frames, and another $4,000 for the standard frames and covers.
and wouldn't you want to amend that for the self-leveling frames, conditional?
Additional, yes.
Yeah, conditionally pending
DOT. yeah.
approval from NISTOT for,
Yeah.
you know, the installation, because you're still waiting on that information.
Yeah, if we only if we end up only being able to use the solid or the standard
Mhm.
frames, then it'll be $7,200 roughly, and that's delivered to our door.
Okay, so we're essentially going up to 9,000.
Yes, if we do 10 self-leveling and 7 or 8 standard, then that would be around $13,000.
Yeah, but 9,000 for the self-level. Okay.
Yep.
Everybody get that for a motion? Amended?
Up to $13,000 of manholes dependent on NISTOT approval, and the exact content of the types of manholes at the discretion of the DPW.
Yes,
Ooh,
Excellent.
nice. Very, very nice,
that
Justin.
was good.
I will second that.
Okay, yeah, somebody better second that one. Okay, roll call, please. Dorothea? Hello?
Sorry. Trustee Stetser,
Aye.
trustee Lampier,
Lanfear, aye.
trustee Lightgib,
I,
trustee Keating,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Aye.
motion passes.
Okay,
Thank
what
you
else,
guys very
Zach?
much. These, I hate to push this on you so fast like this, but it's about 8 to 10 weeks out to get these because everything's on back order. So I'm just trying to keep ahead of the game here. So the DOT isn't waiting on us. So I appreciate it very much.
Thanks,
Real
Zach.
quick for Zach, the board okay to authorize a letter of intent to purchase the toolkit? Or do we need to wait till the next meeting? I just wanted to make sure before I left anything hanging.
I do believe that trustee Leaka asked for a clarification of the spreadsheet, the existing
Okay,
spreadsheet, so that we could look at the projection
Okay,
of
I
the-
just want to make sure I didn't miss something there.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin.
was
I don't
my
want to speak for you.
understanding.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
my understanding too. We'll put it on, we have our meeting next week, so let's just make it happen. We'll put it on and,
Okay.
have the material and then we can, take an action.
Hey,
Okay.
hey, Justin, if
Yeah.
you can you send me over the 2020, 2021 schedule that you
Sure
have?
thing. I'll do that right after this
I'm
meeting.
looking at my schedule right now and it's, I've got replacement for the toolkit as 21, 22. I'm not sure what yours has.
Says 23, 23, 24, but I'll send this over to you. This is
Alright.
the 21 replacement summary.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
and is
Any-
the board okay with the meeting schedule so I can get that posted?
Yeah, it's Mondays at 5, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
That sounds good.
One more thing on the budget. Last year we did the embankment on Rand and there were some associated costs with that. It looks like next year, next budget year, we'll do the South and Boughton intersection embankment. So whatever we spent on that in engineering fees and those kinds of things, can we just get an estimate built into the budget?
We can, I'm actually hoping we could pass that on to the ARPA funds because it's truly a good use of those funds.
Even better.
Yeah, that
Just want it
actually-
on as a wish list.
Yeah, no, that actually was, is like a perfect ARPA project. It meets all the requirements.
But we'll get those.
Okay, anything
Speaking
else?
of this, are we going to look at an overall? You mentioned that as a perfect project. Are we going to look at a list of projects and the amount of money that we have and be able to prioritize in some way? Had the board look at what the proposed projects are in the next year that could be completed and make a judgment call about the money? Or are we already saying that this is the priority and this is the way the funds are going to be spent?
Well, you've already, I mean, Zach, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This was all part of the South Street project. Am I correct?
In regard to the restoration or the rebuilding of the creek bank,
Oh, I think Lily's talking ARPA projects. Is that what I'm guessing, Lily?
Yeah, I'm speaking about the Van Creek embankment replacement. I
that's
thought
south
that-
and Boughton.
Which one? The one on
It's-
Boughton?
No, the one
one?
I'm sorry, the one on Rand. The one on Rand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that we've already just went through the funding for that, and some of that is going to be the first round of ARPA funds.
Okay.
We've already. I mean,
Taken,
we can
you've
extend it.
authorized that already.
Oh,
from
yeah,
that
yeah,
fund.
that's already, because that's at the Army Corps of Engineers right now. It's gone through DEC. We have all the easements signed by all the property
That I
owners.
knew, okay.
Yeah, so for
So
that one.
This money
Yeah.
is different money, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
we didn't use all of the ARPA funds for the
Okay.
Van Creek project. So, and we have, how many years do we have to use the ARPA funds? Is it 3 or 4?
I think it's 5.
5. Oh, up to
Okay.
5. Yeah, so we have a little bit of a window, and then what we received is just the first half of ARPA. So roughly, I think maybe, I guess, July or August of next year, we should receive our second piece of the ARPA funding.
Okay.
So
I
that's-
was thinking that at some point, there would be a list of potential projects and that we would assess each one and determine which one we felt would be the best use of the funds. But that was already decided apparently, and as far as the Rand Creek.
Well, yeah, the
Rand
Rand Creek
Place.
was already yeah, I know what you mean. The Rand Place project was already in progress. So
Okay,
it seemed to, make the most sense to close
Okay.
that out.
I guess I must have missed
And
that
that's what
meeting.
the board had discussed and already approved.
Okay,
But, Zach, you have a list of all kinds of projects, so we certainly can circle back,
Oh, yeah.
And I think also what's driving some of this now too is the fact that NISTOT's here right now. So we kind of want to capitalize on where they're working. So, they can install the manhole covers, or they can, do some curbing or help with the additional sidewalk work. We're trying to kind of piggyback, I think, on what they're doing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we still have drainage work that needs to be done out in front of the village hall. There was something else that we were looking to have them do at the same time.
But why don't we, why don't we go back through our notes on that and then bring it to the next budget meeting? Because I think that'd be helpful. It's got a little, I wouldn't say skew, but it's just, if NISTOT's here, we want to take advantage of that,
Yeah.
wherever they're working in our village, because it really helps DPW. Zach, you can speak to that,
Oh, yeah. Well, the drainage out in front of the village hall was, that was already on the budget for this year. So we're just waiting for them to get started so we can ask them to do this also. I think the other thing was the apron on the driveway at the village hall and also the median on State. That
Mhm.
this is going with the town's assist on. And then there was one other thing down at the south end of the village on South Main Street, and that's where they're tying in the crosswalk going from the west side of the road to the east side of the road at the village line, which I believe that is going to be a combined project between the town, the village, and the state.
Yeah, that's right before the bus turnaround.
Yep.
As you're exiting the village, just so, we're clear on what that is. And, they're sort of moving along because NISTOT's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
A motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
So I can,
I'll second Zach.
Roll call, trustee Lampier,
Lanfear, aye.
trustee Lightgib,
Aye.
trustee Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Stetser,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks again, Dorothy and Brooklyn, for your good work, really. And
Thank
Zach
you,
also
everyone.
for pulling all
Thank
this
you.
together too.
no
Thanks so
problem.
much. Have a good
See you guys.
evening.
Night.
Good night.